Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, unfortunately, the Burundian capital remains in a state of chaos. But without surprise, yet another high-profile killing has occurred. This time around, the spokesman for an opposition party in Burundi was shot and killed on Monday night outside of his home in Bujumbura. The party leader confirmed that Patrice Gahungu of the UPD Zigamimbanga party was assassinated by unknown gunmen in the Gihusho neighborhood of Bujumbura. This comes months after Zedi Feruzi, then the leader of UPD Zimbabanga, was shot in Bujumbura amid violent street protests against President Pierre Nkurunziza's bid for more time in office. In August, a top military general who once led the intelligence services, Adolf Nshimirimana, was also killed in a drive-by shooting in Bujumbura, sparking concerns of revenge killings in which regime loyalists and opponents target each other. Well, for more on this, we go live to London, where African news analyst Mr. Warwick Onyema, who has been monitoring the Burundi crisis right from the onset, is standing by. Mr. Onyema, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Any surprise at all with this latest murder, which we saw on Monday?
Well, it fits the pattern of murders we've already seen. It's an assassination of a person outside their home. On this occasion, it's a prominent member of the opposition political parties, and he was shot dead. His widow is of no doubt whatsoever that this was a targeted assassination by government forces, the police and the militia, the youth militia, the Imbonerakure, who are notorious for their activity, and she believes that this will continue. You only have to oppose Nkurunziza's sham election to be targeted on a blacklist, and I'm sure that more killings are going to happen.
Now, speaking of what you just said, I was speaking with one of our contacts in Burundi earlier on, and he did mention that the opposition's way of dealing with opponents is either via assassination or torture. Based on what you just said, I believe you agree with that.
Well, I don't know about the opposition's method. I'm thinking that of the government loyalist method. No. They're the ones who are the protagonists.
No, I think there was a mix-up, Mr. Onyema. I'm saying that he was saying that the government's, I think I made a mistake there. He was saying that the government's way of dealing with the opposition is either via assassination or torture.
Oh, very much so. In fact, the Amnesty International has published data showing widespread reports of systematic arrest, torture, and even murder while in custody, and that this is spreading all over the country, not just in Bujumbura. So it does seem to be a specific government strategy.
Now, Mr. Onyema, we are hearing that President Nkurunziza might now be willing to dialogue. If this is true, then we can attribute this move to the sanctions, right?
I think I would be more persuaded by his pledge to undertake dialogue if he wasn't so active in having all his opponents either exiled or killed. I don't know what dialogue can now take place in the present climate. But however, you are perfectly correct. One commentator has said that the only thing that's going to make a difference is intervention with muscle. In other words, that there has to be a threat to Nkurunziza himself and to his country's survival by external powers before he will agree to dialogue.
But in truth, we know that the sanctions might force him to dialogue, but is this a sustainable method in that he might agree for just, a short time, like what we've seen in South Sudan, where we've had about 8 peace deals that have not exactly been adhered to, but it doesn't seem to be a long-term plan. My question is, what should we see being put in place that could actually guarantee a long-term result?
I suppose that's up for debate, really. That's highly questionable. I think the belief is that if economic sanctions are being applied to Burundi, that it can't survive. After all, well over 50% of its budget is dependent on foreign loans and grants. So if those are withheld, then it's no longer economically viable as a national entity. But what if he hangs on still? And there's every likelihood that he will try and do just that. Because Nkurunziza seems totally committed to the notion that either he is the president or the country just scatters or falls apart.
Well, Ms. Onyema, thank you very much for your time. As always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Mr. Warwick Onyema, an African news analyst, speaking with us from London. Now, at this point, we'd just like to bring you some highlights of this crisis, which has been taking place in Burundi since the month of April of 2015. Now, what we've seen is a lot of demonstrations, after which we saw a displacement of people. We understand that that's about 180,000, particularly in the capital, Bujumbura, where they, those who left the country ended up in other neighboring countries such as Rwanda. We've also seen a lot of murders. I believe they're about over dozens in number, because some have gone unregistered. We've also seen a clear violation of the Burundian constitution, as well as the Arusha peace deal, which ended the 2005 civil war. In addition to that, we've also seen a failed coup attempt when President Pierre Nkurunziza left the country briefly, but it was not successful. Then we also saw that the elections which took place were not observed by international bodies, after which the credibility was clearly questioned by international bodies such as the United Nations, as well as the United States of America. There have also been 6 high-profile murders, including that which we saw that was reported yesterday, but which took place on Monday, which was about 2 days ago, and it was the killing of a spokesman for the opposition party in Burundi, who was shot and killed on Monday night outside of his home in Bujumbura. But one person who was actually, an assassination attempt was carried on, actually survived. We also saw the private media has been shut down, and state media is still running at the moment. Well, for more on how Burundians are handling the situation, we go live to Bujumbura, where Mr. Jean-Regis Nduimana, who is a university lecturer and a media consultant, joins us. Mr. Nduimana, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You are welcome.
Can you describe to us the current situation at home?
The current situation is like there's a lot of uncertainty. People, they are like ready to accept what is happening as in the third term, but otherwise what is going on in the night is somehow mystic, because in the night there is some people who shoot at the police when the police is trying to coming in the cities. So the problem is they have to fight the guys, the fighters, they have to fight against the police during the night. That's the big problem, and what is going on in the night. It is the main issue for the government right now, because they have to come up with stability in the country, especially during the night when there is a lot of gunfires in the cities.
Now, Mr. Nduimana, I have to ask, based on what you just said about Burundians accepting what is happening. So, I believe, based on accepting the third term, can I take from what you're saying that there are no protests at the moment, but people are just accepting that President Nkurunziza is ruling for a third term?
As in, they are accepting in regarding the way that the opposition is not doing anything, which is like any action, whatever it is, military or not. But people are seemingly have to be resigned, has to be calm, has to be to follow whatever government is saying, because in order to avoid to be arrested, or that's why we don't have any protests during the day. But things have changed. Anti-fair terms guys, they have guns. In the night, they fight against the police. But during the day, they go to work. People think it seems normal. They're like, okay, we go on whatever is on the power right now. But since the opposition is doing nothing as a serious action, people seems calm, seems working with this third-term administration.
But Mr. Nduimana, I have to say at this point, the opposition might not be doing much, I think, based on the killings which we've seen, because I know that you did say that the way that the government chooses to deal with its opposition is either by assassination or torture. So that could be what is deterring them from doing much.
Yes, this is because today torturing and some assassination or arrest are the new weapons using by the ruling regime. So since people want to avoid that, they say, okay, we have to stay quiet so that we avoid all these things. Because people, in the morning, we always find dead bodies thrown in the rivers and garbages, you know, and in the night, young people are being arrested, and they are even not really fighters. They are people just in the cities who are being arrested. So people try to avoid all these things because this is a high level of torture, high level of arrest and assassination. People, they can deal with that.
Well, Mr. Nduimana, thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely be keeping in touch. Please stay safe, and thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Jean-Regis Nduimana reporting from the Burundian capital, Bujumbura, and that is the basis for our question of the day. We're asking you, how can the crisis in Burundi be brought to an end? Feel free to send us your feedback either via email or Twitter. The address and handle will appear on your screen in just a moment. There it is. Feel free to send us your feedback on either platforms. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa right here on Channels Television. I'm Cynthia Are.